Hey everybody, and thanks for joining me on my first travel vlog. Anyway, so I found myself in Terrace, BC, which is the last major stop before you hit the real isolated wilds of British Columbia, and your gateway up to the north. This area around Terrace itself is pretty spectacular. It's got lots of unspoiled nature, mountains, ocean. It's pretty incredible in its own right. But that's pretty much indicative of the whole journey. It's striking composition of mountains, rivers, forests overflowing with wildlife, and it is definitely one of my favorite parts of the world. I wanted to go months ago because I got this ridiculous sentimentality that I like to revisit old places, and I entitled my original blog about this as Chasing Ghosts of the Cassiar Highway. Because my grandparents, I used to spend all my summers in northern British Columbia with my grandparents who lived in a town called Cassiar, which is what the highways shares the same name. Anyway, so I decided I wanted to do that and make a big old trip of it. Grandparents, Milan and Mileva, my grandfather was a millwright in Cassiar, and Cassiar was an asbestos mining town, which sounds absurd, but this is before they realized that asbestos was as bad for you as they know it is now. And Cassiar had some of the finest asbestos in the world, and they were very proud of that. I did my journey thinking of these amazing memories I had when I was a kid, amazing community, family, fishing spots, adventure. So from Terrace I went north to go find these things again. Now, heading up from Terrace, there's some amazingly beautiful lakes and small towns and stuff on the way, but it's not far out of Terrace that you're going to lose cell phone service, so make sure that you're prepared. Have water, refreshments, make sure you've got plenty of gas. Use every opportunity to get gas that you can, and carry some cash with you as well. But it's not far out of Terrace. The first intersection, major crossroads you're going to come to is the Mesiaden Junction. Turning right takes you into the remote wilds of interior BC. Turning left takes you to Stewart, BC, which is about a 45-minute drive away. Definitely turn left and head to Stewart. There's glaciers. It's on the ocean, pretty much. It's spectacularly beautiful. It was essentially founded by prospectors and was part of the gold and silver rush of the late 1800s, early 1900s. So it's small, charming, picturesque. It has a real oldie-worldy Wild West charm about it. But it's still very much a bit of an industrial town, with it being the last ice-free northern port in Canada. It borders with Hyder, Alaska, which you can normally get into when COVID isn't happening. It's surrounded by mountains, prone to avalanches and road closures in winter. There's spectacular glaciers to see, as I said, and especially in Hyder. But I saw some significant avalanches on my way in and out of town. It's cute, quaint, big, dramatic, and at the same time, it's small and charming. I loved every second of being there. The night there in an amazing little campground that my site backed onto some caves. It was super cool. Anyway, so heading back up to the Mesiaden Junction, turn right, or actually keep going straight, and I spent the next day heading up towards Dease Lake. Dease Lake is the next sort of major town, and it's a good place to stop as you're heading up. So I got to Dease Lake after a full day of driving. So Dease Lake is a small community, has the basics to enable this remote place to get by. There's a gas station, general store, liquor store, hot food served, cash machine, mechanic, and a few other businesses and government outlets. I chose on the first night to stay at a tiny little campground. It was an honor system. I think it was like $10 to $15. You put an envelope through and there was literally nobody else there, and it was stunning. This video was taken exactly in that spot, and I really enjoyed staying there. And it's a good place to relax and light a fire, and it's right by the river, as you can see. There's another place to stay in Dease Lake further past town. It's got Wi-Fi as long as the owner's generator is running. I think he turns it off at about 10 or 11 o'clock at night. But that's a little bit more of a service site. I don't think they had electricity, but they had water. And like I said, there's Wi-Fi. I had chats with a friendly Australian couple that I met there. Their camper van had broken down, so as they do, and the owner's son who works in town and owns the mechanics, was getting it fixed for them. I also took the opportunity to cook myself some dinner. with some stuff I found along the way. Well, actually, I got it from a grocery store in Terrace. But yeah, I think I'm just cooking some steaks and some asparagus and stuff for my dinner. This video was taken at the other campground, so it's actually right on Dease Lake. So the one site's got the river, and the other site has got the lake. The next day was go find Cassiar day, and heading up actually closer to one of my destinations, and along the way I was keeping my eye out open for all the old fishing spots that we used to have when I was a kid. And I never did actually find them because everything apparently has changed quite a bit, so that was a bit disappointing, but it's still beautiful scenery. So anyways, the first place that you're going to want to stop if you're heading up this way towards Cassiar is the Cassiar Mountain Jade Store, which they have live demonstrations, and they've got all kinds of different jade carvings. The actual asbestos mine is now a jade mine, so that is actually still in operation. So anyway, stop in there if you can. It was closed when I was there because of COVID, but if it's open when you're there, please, you should go in. It's pretty cool. So anyways, back in the 80s, my grandfather decided that he was going to, along with my grandmother, they were going to move to Cassiar, and he was a millwright, I think I said, in the town of Cassiar. So not long after they went to Cassiar, my grandparents, I think they sent for us to come and visit. So when my brother, my parents and I, and we made the long trip from Montreal. I think it was my first time ever on an airplane, on CP Air, which doesn't exist anymore. I remember being totally impressed that they just used to give you decks of cards if you asked for them. This was long before there was in-flight entertainment systems. That was about all the in-flight entertainment that there was back then. Maybe a movie if you're lucky, but I don't think there was. Anyways, it was a pretty amazing adventure, and flying to the opposite end of the country and landing in Watson Lake, Yukon. We were we marveled at the tiny one-room airport that we landed in, and it was certainly a huge contrast to the gleaming Big Dorval airport in Montreal. It may have been a small airport, I thought to myself, but I got really excited to hear that that we were getting the limousine service to the town of Cassiar a few hours away. My spirits were quickly dashed when I realized that limousine meant a bus and on a bumpy, dirty road. So that was the limousine. Anyways, we crossed the border back into British Columbia, and sure, I must have napped all the way. It was a 20-hour journey back then. It's probably about the same or more now. But eventually, we arrived in Cassiar, and it was super cool. It was very familiar with It was all very familiar with my grandmother's home cooking, my grandfather getting yelled at for sneaking swigs of plum brandy from the cupboard, from the liquor cabinet. But it was beautiful. It was in a valley, and there was, my grandparents were very social people. There was no shortage of Yugoslavs there as well, so they felt very much at home. This was a real community where people lived, people died, they got married. There was a bar, I'm sure. I mean, we never went there because I was a kid, but it was very much a very social, I remember it being a very warm community. One had all the basics. There's a Sears depot, a Royal Bank of Canada outlet, there was a general store. My grandfather used to steal fishing lures from there. He was ridiculous, but that's what he used to do. And we spent weeks having fun, looking at the amazing scenery, going fishing, hanging out in log cabins, and socializing with the other people from the community. I mean, it was a really good time, especially, it was a fantastically good family time, and I've got some really fond memories of it, obviously, as being as sentimental as I am. So, unfortunately, like, some of the things weren't there anymore that I thought that would be, like our old fishing lakes. All the landscapes changed quite a bit. I was looking for that log cabin that we used to go to. It's none of that really exists anymore. I don't think. There's sort of in the forest fire path, I think that there were some recent fires that had gone through there, but it's amazing scenery. Anyway, so I had all that in mind as I was going up there, and I was really looking forward to seeing the town of Cassiar, or what was left of it. I'd assumed, because it was a reasonably big community, that it would all still be there. And I was driving down just past the Jade City store. You come to the road that takes you up to Cassiar. It's just on the left if you're heading north. And I took that road, and my heart was pounding, and I was thinking, well, here we go. Now things are starting to look a little bit familiar of where the town site was, and as I came around the corner, I realized there wasn't as much there as I thought it would be. They basically shut down Cassiar and sold everything off, and the mine site actually exists. The Jade Mine, which is now a Jade Mine, is still there, but the town was all gone, and all that's left there really right now it's basically a scrapyard. And they actually film a television series up there. I've put that on my blog. I can't remember what it's called offhand. But I came around the corner and I saw a guy, and I said, "Is it all right if I have a look?" He said, "Yeah, of course. People come here all day long. They usually come because they used to live here, or they come to see my dad, Scrappy Larry." And I just sort of looked at him blankly. That meant nothing to me. And he said, "My dad, Scrappy Larry, off the television. He's just over there." So, Scrappy Larry is a man who, there he is, who's off the television now, and he's basically at the entrance of the town site, and that's his scrapyard, and he's a local character, and that's what he does. And that's fine, and it was good. I was a little bit disappointed, but it did kind of bring everything back to me. So, anyways, I packed up, off I went, off to Boya Lake. From Cassiar, off the main highway, it's not far to Boya Lake, but it's so worthwhile going. It is, it's a provincial park, and it is stunningly beautiful, and here's some images of it. There wasn't that many people there. It's a service campground. No power. There's one communal water point, so just be prepared if you're going to stay there. There are park rangers on site, so they come around collecting the cash from you. There's some decent fishing. They have kayaks and canoes for free that you can borrow and take around. But it is an amazing place. There's plenty of wildlife around there as well. Little beavers swimming by when I was there. Go to Boya. I could have spent a week at Boya Lake. I obviously had only a short time limit. But I wish I'd stayed longer because it's an amazing place. So off went the next day to first Watson Lake, and then I was going off to Muncho Lake. But Watson Lake is where we originally first landed, and I got a lot of memories going there, and there's a few things that I wanted to see. One of which was the great famous Watson Lake signposts, or signpost forest. When I first went there, it wasn't much of a forest, but it was... basically, somebody had planted a signpost from where they were, and then someone else did, and it's grown and grown over the years. So it's quite the tourist attraction now, and it's quite the landmark, and people. It's grown and grown, and people from all over the world have put their signposts there, and it is literally a little small forest. That's from years ago, I think, when I was first there, and this is kind of what it looks like now. There's, I think they've moved it, they've expanded it, they've probably gotten rid of some of the stuff that probably hasn't lasted over time. But yeah, it's definitely worthwhile seeing. It's a interesting little spot to be, and if you're passing through that way, definitely check out the Watson Lake signposts. The place I kind of wanted to see in that area was the Watson Lake Hotel, because that's where we used to go as a family and have a family meal when we were flying out or flying in. Unfortunately, I think it burned down over a decade ago, which is a bit disappointing again, but things have changed. So off I went next to Muncho Lake. Again, this is an amazingly beautiful drive. There's on the way you're going to pass by Layard Hot Springs, but it is stunning. You're heading into the Northern Rockies now, and the scenery changes a little bit, the wildlife changes a little bit. You still plenty of bears, lots of black bears and everything on the way, but I wasn't expecting this. There's wild herds of bison. just hanging out on the side of the road, and I just think they're the most incredible creatures with their wise faces, and they're just really not bothered by you. They're just doing their thing, eating some grass along the way, and they're just beautiful animals, and it's just something I wasn't expecting. And for me, this kind of thing makes it all kind of worthwhile, you know. Seeing a family of bison just sort of hanging out on the road is really cool, and that's one of the reasons why you come up to northern British Columbia or the Yukon and stuff, is to see things in their natural habitat as much as you can. Granted, they're on the side of a road, but it's not all that well traveled, but still, it's pretty interesting, and I loved every second of it. And anyway, so you continue on through the Yukon back into British Columbia, that I did on the Alaska Highway, and eventually you're gonna come to Muncho Lake in the Northern Rockies. Scenery really does speak for itself. It's beautiful. There's an incredible fishing. There's incredible scenery. It's just a stunning place. And it was kind of a good. So I spent a good few days here before I made my way back down again, and it was definitely worth it. And I enjoyed every second of it. So that was my journey chasing ghosts up the Cassiar Highway. So what did I learn? Well, I already knew that I was far too sentimental for my own good, but I learned that things do change. The landscape changes, communities change, climate changes, the earth changes, people change. But as my favorite author Robertson Davies said, we shall have our rich memories. So I learned that despite the disappointments I faced along the way, I have those fantastic memories, beautiful, vivid ones, and I'm going to hold them a little closer to my heart now. I'm grateful for how good it was reconnecting to this land again. You should go see it. It's really special. The whole journey up Highway 37 up the Alaska Highway and beyond is remarkable. If you stop by Cassiar, give a nod to Scrappy Larry, and have a smile for my grandparents Milan and Mileva. And I hope you do this journey. It's really is worthwhile.